Start. Brian Darmody, CEO for AURP. You'll note I'm wearing a Tech Park sweatshirt or polo, but I can be bribed. If any of you want to send me swag from your particular park, men's large. If COVID-19 lasts another 9 months, men's extra large. So I'll be happy to wear and promote your individual parks. Because I have to leave at 12:30, I just wanted to mention one thing. We are likely to be giving an award to the National Governors Association as part of our international conference. So if any of your parks have any pictures of your governor, doing a groundbreaking or somehow being involved with your park, I know Laura, you guys, as I recall, have a lot of involvement or have had involvement with your governors. Just send me pictures. I'm not guaranteeing we would use them, but because we're going to be honoring the NGA, I thought that would be a neat way of sort of providing some context to them. We're giving it actually for NGA's response to COVID-19. And those of you that were on the webinar for biopharma manufacturing earlier this month, we feature a number of our parks that are doing biopharma manufacturing. So anyway, we're trying to connect some dots here. And so that would be the request. And I know at the end, we'll give a reminder about our Winning the War for Talent and Technology webinar on October 15th. And if you haven't signed up, we can get you signed up. And Vicki and Diana have marketing materials on that. Anyway, with that, Laura, I guess you want to keep going and have others introduce themselves?
Yes, thanks for the announcements. Vicki and Diana, also from our AURP team. I think you guys know them. So I'm going to pick on Aaron. He's wearing my favorite color, so.
Right. I've been accused of LSU in this color, but I can't do that right now. I'm Aaron Misnich, Executive Director of the BW Tech Research Park as part of UMBC.
Aaron, what kind of, what is that behind you?
Don't embarrass me.
No, I want one. What is it? I want to know exactly what it is. What is it?
It's a treadmill.
I want one.
I have, you'll see it as a rug from when my kids were very young over it, so the cats won't use it as a scratching pad.
Right.
But it folds up so it takes up less space.
Right. That's what I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
I won't tell you how unused it is, okay?
Okay. I won't ask.
How about you, Heather?
Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Gately, and I am with NC State University on our Centennial campus.
Thank you. Any, Mary?
Is that me? Sorry. So hey, my name is Mary Hunter Cottle. I am the Associate Director for Economic Development at Georgia Tech and representing Georgia Tech and Technology Square.
All right, we'll leave Miles last since there's two folks over there. Morgan.
Hi, I'm Morgan Weston with Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. Glad to be here.
Hey, Morgan, if we have time later, I'd really like to hear about your groundbreaking, which I viewed this week. I mean, that was just amazing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk more about that.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I saw lots of promotion for it, but unfortunately I had a conflict. So yeah, I want to hear about it.
It's on YouTube, so we'll get the link out to you. It was a lot of fun.
All right, Miles.
Morning, Miles Thomas here. I'm the Executive Director of the Tri-Cities Research District and Director of Economic Development for the Port. And I've got my coworker Wally here with us. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Wally Williams. I am the Marketing Director for the Port of Benton, and Miles has asked me to sit in on this and take notes.
And I gotta say, I'm still really happy that this group represents all the places that I've lived.
Oh,
Urbana-Champaign and Atlanta and Raleigh and Charlotte. This is awesome.
Looks like you're missing somebody in the middle there. Did you somebody step out there?
They're socially distancing.
Very
And
good.
you
Okay.
I accidentally muted us, but yes, 6 feet.
I love it. I love it.
All right. Well, our topic today is about corporate internships and recruitment. And I actually need to, if you're hearing some weird noise in the background on my thing, it's because actually I'm going to check out of this thing. So in another window, I have a virtual career fair that we're attending right now, or thankfully I have other staff members who are monitoring plenty of, and they are doing quite well. So I'm going to X out of that so we don't hear those annoying noises. Of course, there's also people mowing the lawn outside, which is of course timed exactly for this event. So I appreciate that very much. Anyway, but the point is that recruitment, of course, at our university has marched on, and I'm happy to talk about what that looks like from a university perspective. I'm sure it's probably not much more different than what your universities are, but I think what Brian wanted me to talk a little bit more about and pick your brains about was more specifically about what our parks are doing to help facilitate resources and recruitment for our clients. And so so just to give you a little bit of background, if you're not familiar with the University of Illinois Research Park, we are located on the flagship campus of the University of Illinois, which is Champaign. We now have 19 buildings in our park. 2 are just about to open, great timing. But one of them is actually a specialized greenhouse facility, which is really unique project. And then the other one is a multi-tenant building. But most of our buildings are multi-tenant buildings. We have what we would call 30 corporate innovation centers on our campus, and those corporate innovation centers are responsible for the bulk of our student internships. We have at any given time over 800 students working in our park. Typically, or at its height, is usually in the summer. The model, of course, being students working full-time during the summer, but part-time during the school year, which is what the companies really value the most, is being able to have that continuous workforce. One of the reasons why this works so well at the University of Illinois is because companies are looking, or at least our companies, and what we focus on is a lot of old school companies that want to make sure that they are incorporating new school technologies. And that's really across the board, regardless of the industry, what we see, and utilizing the vast talent at the University of Illinois. And I'll brag for a second, but I think we were in the Wall Street Journal rankings, the #5 public university in those rankings. So not only are we really awesome, we're really awesome at a lot of things. So anyway, rah, rah, orange and blue. But the reason I love purple so much is I'll give a shout out to my alma mater, which is Northwestern, which I can do on these calls because they don't have a research park. So anyway, but I have to explain the purple. Anyway, I'm not wearing purple today. Uh-oh, my branding is out the window here. So anyway, but what are we doing for our companies? So internships continue, and I'm about to get Zoom bombed by my family right now. Here we go. I told you this would happen. I don't know if you guys were on earlier.
Here, she picked these for you and she can put them in more.
I love the reality of these calls and life.
It's made meetings a whole lot more fun.
I was about to say, I honestly think what quarantine has done to everyone is made people more patient and more graceful with each other. Like,
right.
you could do anything on a Zoom call right now, and I'd be like, yeah, cool, life. You know, like I just.
Me too.
Anyway,
Well,
here we are. So I'm glad I'm the entertainment today, but I honestly don't care. My dog hasn't barked yet. That's good. We haven't hit we need a bingo card actually for these meetings, like what happened. So But back to our clients, essentially our clients were very well positioned to move to virtual internships, and those continue. Of course, now the clients are in many ways trying to figure out how to do hybrids. Some of them have been, of course, doing on-site work, not as many as we'd like, of course, because many of them are subject to their corporate regulations, regardless of the fact that the positivity rate in our community is way lower than it might be where their corporate headquarters are, et cetera, and all the safety measures. So that's a whole other story. But as far as what we're doing, we have been experimenting with lots of different virtual platforms and virtual ways to continue the opportunities for students to be educated about opportunities in the research park. So I would say, you know, we've, and a lot of this has just been trial and error. And it's funny because a lot of our clients are all trying to, or a lot of, not clients, a lot of our partners across campus, you know, we're now meeting in ways just like this to see, okay, who has done this and how did it work and who's tried that and whatever. So one of the events that we did do was we do a annual a block party. So last year we had 25 companies. They had a high top tables outside. It was gorgeous. They all came in. It's very informal, not a career fair, more of like an info fair. And that was amazing. We wanted to replicate that. So what we figured out was we decided to try to do a similar thing on Zoom. And we learned a lot how to do this. Basically, just a hot tip is that one person cannot set up simultaneous Zoom rooms because they will all get nixed. So we learned that the hard way about 30 minutes before the event and pivoted nicely. But basically, we learned that we need to do a combination of virtual as well as getting our clients to be comfortable doing pre-recorded video content, which for many of them has been an interesting endeavor, considering that they need to do these things on the fly and not be subject to their corporate communications policies. So they're all doing these things very, in some cases, sort of under the table ways of putting out their messaging. But we know that the more current, I mean, students are really interested in, okay, well, I like this project, but what are you currently doing and how have you adapted to the pandemic and what does that mean for my workplace? So having things that are current and show the workplace, you know, whether they're masked or whatever, has been important to students. And they want to understand how these things are going. But the interest of students in working, I think, is even increased at this time because, frankly, they don't have as much to do. So the fact that there are opportunities, I think that the companies are actually getting access to students that they might not have had access to before, but for the current situation. So I think that's important to understand and an important message for our companies. So I'm going to stop there because I really want to, you know, I don't have a specific agenda, but I'm happy to discuss, you know, different ways or different platforms. But I want to hear from you guys what you're hearing from your companies, if they're struggling with certain things regarding internships or getting the word out, or if they're seeing successes and sharing what those successes might be.
Laura, can I ask a question? So are you finding a lot of companies are hiring students as part-time employees and aren't really going through you or your career center? They're just sort of recruiting students as part-time employees, not as an intern or not as any kind of for credit. Has that increased more with the pandemic?
So let me see if I understand. So basically, I would say honestly that none of this has really changed. I mean, we help facilitate internships, and we help, of course, we encourage all the companies to post their jobs to our job board, and people see our job board. We know that that's the most trafficked part of our website. We work very hard on it. And that's what we promote out to students as full-time as well. So it's a huge benefit for them because you can't get on our job board unless you're a tenant. So that's a huge benefit for them and puts them in a unique space. So I wouldn't say that we're seeing any like rogue postings or things like that. I mean, I think that, you know, we have a mechanism on our campus that's somewhat unique where the companies can utilize the university as a third-party employer. So I don't know if any of you all have this on your campus, but basically the university, of course, charges overhead and acts as the, you know, basically the, like any third-party employment agency. Of course, that can be expensive to the companies. Expensive is a relative term, though. Some companies don't think twice about what that fee is because it's worth it to them. I guess the reason I bring this up to your point too is that I don't know that we've seen any more or less companies taking advantage of that program due to the pandemic. I actually just heard from one of my colleagues who was in a corporate relations staff meeting that corporate sponsorships are up significantly this year. So while we may not have a huge, I mean, we're certainly seeing activity pick up too recently about companies that are interested in establishing new operations in our park. Now, I haven't seen an uptick in signed leases yet, but it's happening where they're planning now for 2021. And that is, in some cases, we had companies who had told us all along that they were planning for 2021 and they're following with their word. So yeah, I wouldn't say we're seeing any less. And I do think that's important because actually, and again, back to that comment about companies getting access to students that they might not have gotten access to otherwise, is that because a lot of some industries have canceled, our companies are not in industries that have been severely impacted by the pandemic. So, you know, across the board, I mean, I'm sure there are a few, but across the board, that has not been the case, so that our internships have remained stable, if not grown. And so that's actually been a benefit to them because in some cases, they had students who had scheduled to go over the summer to different internships, then those internships got rescinded and those students stayed in those operations.
Thanks.
You mentioned the jobs page and how popular it was. Is that a custom design page or is that a boilerplate from a third party? How did you put that together?
I can put it in the, but it was built custom for us. We did a website redesign that was launched about 9 months ago, and that our job board reflects that. I mean, we worked with a company called Elasticity, and it's sort of a hybrid of an existing platform, and we customized it. I'll drop it in the chat, or I don't know if Diana, you want to go grab it if I'm not that nimble, but and the other thing about our job board, and this might be interesting to you, Miles, is that our jobs feed into another job board in town. So we collaborate. So we don't let the outside companies put their jobs on our website, but the community job board has a feed directly from our job board. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's interesting. I mean, do you kind of police it all, what's put on from the community job board or what's brought in from the community job board?
No, so what I'm saying is that we don't allow the community jobs on our site, but our jobs
But yours go out. Okay.
Correct.
But do you filter the jobs that are posted? So if ABC Biotech needed 4 interns, can they post it themselves or do they have to go through you?
Both. So we provide access to the site from, so for companies that want to post directly, and then we have approval rights on that. We also, the jobs expire automatically in 60 days, but I think there's an automatic email that goes out to the poster that says something. Honestly, half the time I spend on LinkedIn is trolling LinkedIn for jobs that our companies are posting that are not on our site, which drives me absolutely crazy. But a lot of the reason why that happens is because the jobs get posted by the corporate HR people who change like, you know, every 5 seconds and don't know to post to our site. So I try not to give our site leads too much grief about it, but
it's probably worse than it's ever been right now because we're undergoing a federal subcontractor change. But there are at least 15 that I know of subcontracted HR firms that post jobs for the Hanford site, which employs over 11,000 people in our area. So it's just a mess keeping up with their different subcontracted HR listings, and they all post on their own channels. So it's
yeah.
And they change every year.
Yeah, it's an interesting proposition. The other thing though that we know from students and why we think that this is so important is that I'm sure many of your universities use Handshake or another equal platform. And the reality is though, is that it's very confusing to students if a company, so like Abbott is one of our clients. Well, Abbott posts like tons of jobs. Well, the students don't want to look through all of those jobs and see which one is where. You know, is this in Chicago? Is it in Ohio? Is it in Research Park? It's like, so Handshake is very confusing. So to answer one of the questions about policing it is like, we've had companies try to post jobs to our board that are not for our park. And I'm like, that's out. Nope. Unless you will place that person in Champaign, it does not go on our job board. We also do a lot of, a big part of what my social media team does is put jobs out constantly.
Laura, can you talk a little bit about, that's a really interesting what you do with your job board, but your career center, not the career center, the part-time employment service that you do, like where you charge overhead. Who came up with that idea and how long has that been in existence? And what % of your companies actually utilize that, since it sounds like it's the more expensive option?
So I don't know the recent data. I would say it's about 1/3 of the student interns in the park are employed that way. One of the interesting things about it is that, so this was something that was designed in actually the early 2000s. So it's been around for a while, and the funniest part about it is that my office actually doesn't run it. It's actually run through corporate relations, which means that they also get the money from it. So no comment.
Charge a finder's fee or?
No comment. We're recording this, so anyway. But basically one of the things is that it's a really flexible program. So there are actually companies that might use it for some students, but not others. And why they might use it for some students, not others, depends on the type of student, the type of visa that they have. That goes into it. So it's not an all or nothing proposition.
Can you send a link for that? And does it have a brand? What's it called?
So honestly, you will not find information about it. I will have to look and see where we have information about it on our website, but it's not something that we really push too much in terms of a public brand for it, because it's not something that's available to anybody except for the companies in the research park.
In the park, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. At Maryland, we had something similar, but it was for the university. It was for, for staffers, and they didn't want the different units didn't want to deal with the hassle. And so, the university set it up, but for whatever reason that went away. But I think it is an interesting model, but anyway.
Yeah, and frankly, we have companies that use other third-party staffing platforms. We even have a company in the research park that's doing it now, that actually their main thing is prototyping. This was even pre-pandemic. They figured out that they could undercut the university rate and do this for their clients, and that's what they're doing. So and make money off of it, and so they're very entrepreneurial, and that's what they're doing. So
Are they using your site to hire for their company?
what do you, our site? Yeah, right. Well, if they're in the research park, they can put their jobs on our website. So. I'm curious about what you guys, any thoughts on what you're hearing from your companies about employment, or how they're recruiting, or different ways they're recruiting. Mary looks like she's got
Yeah, sure. I can volunteer to go next. So in Tech Square in Atlanta, we've had a lot of conversations, especially during the pandemic, but before the pandemic. Talent is always a huge driver of conversation. And so when we are talking with companies, of course, the full-time employment is certainly a conversation, but those interns and also co-ops, I know that talked a little bit about on this call, but the co-op model is really popular. Georgia Tech has the largest co-op program in the United States, and we really have seen a lot of success with companies using both internships and co-ops because it allows companies to work with students on topics that have sensitive information, IP concerns. We like encouraging that conversation if a company, especially in the innovation space, has a concern over any of that, especially with IP. What's a great solution? Hire the students yourselves. And so we've seen a lot of that, and that's continued through the pandemic. What we've seen recently and over the summer, there was the initial shift of interns and co-ops to the virtual setting, and we've seen that continue. I think on the last one of these calls, we were talking about this topic, and I brought up one example. Home Depot has has an innovation center in Tech Square, but also something that is run out of that center is their company-wide internship program. And Home Depot has a really great model. They have site-specific internships during the fall and the spring, but then during the summer, they bring all of their interns to their global headquarters right north of Atlanta on the perimeter of our city, so that interns from around the United States experience their corporate culture. Well, that switched all to virtual platforms, but it's been a great opportunity for the Innovation Center based in Tech Square to kind of ramp up their knowledge and ramp up and show off their skills of like, hey, we can do this. And so that's been really successful, the switch to virtual. We've heard that as far as recruiting goes, Georgia Tech is doing all virtual recruiting right now. So kind of moving away from just the summer internships and full-time positions. It's still continuing this fall virtually. We had a career fair this past week that was all virtual based on our campus. And what's been interesting too is that a lot of companies that in our experience have preferred to run their recruiting through either their private websites or the main Georgia Tech site. So there's no Tech Square specific job board. And I think that that's an opportunity for us to explore, how can we set that up? How can we support that and really complement Georgia Tech's recruiting offerings rather than being a competitive factor. So we've got some great feedback, and something that our Career Center has been working on throughout this entire experience is making sure that companies feel completely supported throughout the switch to virtual. So they've had industry roundtables, industry virtual recruitment sessions. They've had all of that, and really had to ramp up their efforts to support the virtual recruitment. And what we're seeing now is that virtual component from the pandemic is going to continue probably throughout the spring. A lot of companies are still saying, we're going to do virtual internships because we don't know what we're going to be like in March 2021 or anything like that. So we're seeing a lot of that, but I've really benefited from this conversation just about the job board discussion specifically, because that's something that I've been really toying around in my mind of how do we bring this and how do we extend our capabilities in Tech Square a little bit further to support the companies that are based here. When Georgia Tech's, hop, skip, and a jump. I mean, literally just 2 seconds, it's on our campus. So yeah, I really benefited from this conversation, but that's kind of what's been going on in some of our efforts in the space.
Yeah, one of the things that we do, and obviously right now we're not doing this, but when we're in person, is that we have what we would call a job board card that we give out to students, which is like a business card, and that basically just says, go to the job board, give these out to your friends, which seems very old school, but they like it. It's like something, it's also a very recognizable short URL that they can. So, our career folks there's actually a link to our job board. They've never seen it as competitive in any way. And they understand why we have it. So thankfully, I mean, although, the reality is that we often act as an island in our university. And so we kind of they didn't really have a choice. So we never asked. But
yeah, I think honestly, the way it would have to function at Georgia Tech is we couldn't create it. We would have to have our career center just create that for Tech Square. And, I've even thrown around just basic ideas of within Georgia Tech's massive career job board, why isn't there just a checkbox for Tech Square,
Right.
or something like that? And so we're just kind of getting all those people to the table. And then, of course, the pandemic hit when we were having these conversations. So kind of getting that back on track is a goal for mine for the rest of this year.
I'll chime in, Mary. That's actually what you described with that checkbox is essentially how NC State handles it and how we do it on Centennial campus. So NC State uses Simplicity, not Handshake, but they built in just a tag for Centennial campus. So we really like that because then all of our partners who are co-located on Centennial campus, they only have to post their job in one place. They're not also having to post it on a Centennial campus job board in addition to the NC State job board. We want to make it as easy as possible, especially because there's so much turnover in HR folks. Some of it's outsourced. So we direct them to post all their jobs, whether it be internships, or co-ops or entry-level positions on that NC State job board, and then just tag it with Centennial campus. And then we have it built to pull into our Centennial campus website any jobs that are tagged that way. And we're also in the process of, so that will only catch those jobs that are tagged through our NC State website, but we want to do a better job of also promoting the other jobs that maybe aren't entry level or internships, but are mid-level or executive level positions as well. So we're working on combining a separate form that will pull those jobs in addition to the ones that are pulled in automatically through that NC State jobs website, the Simplicity API, to combine those together. But by doing that tagging system through Simplicity, it's really easy. Now, Laura, you mentioned how you troll LinkedIn, and I'm trolling our NC State job board because inevitably we have partners who will post an internship and forget to tag it correctly. So I have admin access to do that tagging for them and just catch the ones that I miss. I just do it once a week. I just do scroll through to catch any that might have missed. But that system is really simple and works out for us because it, like I said, it prevents an additional place that those folks have to post the jobs.
Laura, you might have mentioned this, but I heard you talk about Handshake, but what is the platform on the Research Park website?
it's WordPress.
WordPress? Okay, that's great. That's what we have our stuff on. And you can, is it a specific plugin where you can provide access for the businesses that you approve?
I would have to look into how that was built exactly. Like I said, it was custom for us, and I think it was basically a existing plugin, but that was heavily customized for us. So
even if you could
yeah,
give us feedback, that'd be great.
If I will yeah. And I do know that we went through several iterations of this. So to make it sound like this was super easy to put together, it was not. So it was to get everything that we wanted to get it to work the way that we wanted to make sure that the API worked, to put the jobs out in a timely manner to our partners. Yeah, all those things was not exactly as easy as I'm making it sound. So I apologize if I'm glossing over that.
Kudos, it looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have a significant full-time component. I mean, that's one of the challenges of this is the full-time, you know, versus the, like Brian even mentioned, student part-time, right? Well, we just call them all internship / part-time. We actually at one point had a full-time, part-time, student, I don't even know. I mean, like you could get like 18 categories if you started like professional, full, part-time, whatever. We just figured we had so few part-time professional roles that were posted that we put, we just lumped them into the full-time professional ones, and nobody's had a problem with it. But at some level, we just realized like we got to keep it simple for the user. So we do, of course, have companies that are very adamant about not using the term internship in their own internal, because internally to their companies, internship means something very specific other than part-time. Like it means their corporate internship that happens at headquarters for 10 weeks every month or every summer, and that's the only thing it refers to in their HR structure. So anyway, we've had to deal with things like that around too, and so basically we decided that we didn't really care what the companies call them. They can call it part-time if they want, but it's still going under internship for all intents and purposes for our students, because that's what they're going to look for. So just terminology matters to the company, but we just figured it doesn't, you know, for our students, we don't want them to misunderstand.
Just want you guys to know I'm not being quiet because we don't have an answer. We explicitly, for many of the reasons Laura has described, don't proactively market individual jobs on behalf of our companies. We just, there are too many. There are 300 companies in RTP. If we do get some outreach from a a larger partner who says, hey, we really, and I'm talking about like an IBM or a Lenovo or something like that. We might do that. And then within our startup campus at the Frontier, we have a Slack channel, which is really active. So people will post jobs that they're seeking there to that community, and folks can sort of collaborate virtually online. So we found that to be really, really successful and active. So it's kind of those two landscapes of startup versus bigs. And, so again, when we get a specific request, we'll try to work it into one of our newsletter communications or retweet or something. But frankly, just the volume makes it not practical. I'm a team of me and one other person, and it's so it's just not realistic for us to do that. I commend you for taking it on.
Well, I will add that we have one of the ways that we use our own student interns to do a lot of this work. So we mimic our clients and run our own robust internship program. So we have one of the things our university has, and if your university has this, I highly recommend using these students, but the HR grad program has been a great resource for us to help with a lot of these things. So, and it's great training for them. So we have, one of my students is going to Pepsi, for instance, as HR. So they get great jobs. One went to Boeing, one, so they're amazing. But yeah, there's no way I mean, it would be like a full-time job, to your point.
Yeah, we've tried some internship programs in the past, and it's always really challenging. You onboard them, and then 4 months later they're gone. So we've been trying to reevaluate how we bring on interns to help us manage some of those tasks and projects that can realistically be completed in a semester or in a year. So that's a really good idea for one.
I mean, that could be a whole other topic in a communications thing, is how do you manage your communications interns? Because I could talk about that for like 3 hours. So no one really wants to hear me talk for 3 hours though, so.
Oh, we do. We do. Hey, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, if we've exhausted this topic, I'd love to hear more from Morgan. We did tee up that we wanted to hear about the virtual groundbreaking. So in the interest of time, would love to hear about that.
Right.
Yeah, happy to. Not sure where to start. I know some of you are very familiar with the project and some of you probably don't know anything about it. So I will just give a really high level recap. Hub RTP is what we named the Central District inside the park. The park is 7,000 acres in between Durham and Raleigh. We have 100-acre parcel that has been rezoned from Science Research Park to commercial. So we are currently, we just broke ground this week on a $1.5 billion phase one, which is 43 of that 100 acres, 13 of which will be preserved as natural green space. We are transforming an existing stormwater rain shed area into, like a creek, into a water feature and pedestrian trail. We are able to build up to 1 million square feet of office. First phase, 400 apartments to begin with, and about 75,000 square feet of retail, restaurants, etc. So really, really monumental. It has been about 10 years in the making. I've been working on it for about 3 years. So really, really personally exciting as someone who grew up here in the Raleigh-Durham area to see this transformation and to think about the impacts of, you know, sustainability that it's going to have. People will be able to walk or bike rather than getting on our highways to work, and be able to have somewhere to go to get a coffee or have a meeting or get a beer after work. There's also going to be a hotel. We're thinking 275 keys. Really, you know, unlimited opportunities there for our universities to sort of put their mark on it. It's physically, I don't know if I'm allowed to share my screen. Easier to show you than tell you. On our brand new website, which also launched on Tuesday, we have this great little map that indicates those high level facts that I just shared, as well as really the location of Hub. So as I mentioned, the park is within the central area between our 3 big universities. And so at the very center of that is Hub. And we have a serious need for hotels, places to not only stick your in-laws when they come visit, but what we're more so thinking of, and we're speaking to some of our larger companies and of course the schools about some branded experiences within the hotel. You know, for example, a company with a Chinese headquarters, you know, making sure that we have rooms where their executives would feel comfortable and have the amenities that they would expect in China. And also, you know, if you're a prospective student, what more convenient place to stay to tour all of these great universities than right in the middle, and, you know, be able to have this true lifestyle experience without really having to go very far. And as I mentioned, it is a, let's see, show. Yeah, this one in the center is the mock-up of the hotel. We're also hoping to have a, oh, we had a rendering up here. Now it's a video. So used to seeing this in testing. So I encourage you guys to watch the video. I can also share the URL I know, it's been a year. I can also share the URL for the full groundbreaking ceremony. So we also share quickly that we took a really, if y'all know Scott Levitan, if he tells you to do something, you just want him to be just so excited and proud. So, you know, I love working with the team that we have in our leadership, and so he said, we need something edgy. Everybody thinks RTP is old and boring and stuffy, out in the middle of nowhere. I said, okay. And one thing that Scott and I talked about, and I'm really just excited that, you know, as a leader, he's given us a lot of trust, and right, I do too. I think we all do. And if you guys watch the full video of the ceremony, he's got some great little one-liners in there that are in itself worth watching. He should be a show host or something. But he
needs to do one of the peer-to-peers next time.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Brian to get on him.
Yeah, he's a hoot. So
now that his big show is over, he's got time, right, Morgan?
Yeah, exactly.
I know you have nothing to do. Nothing.
Yeah. So he did give me that leeway to pursue Black-owned and women-owned partners in the area. So we actually were able to work with a all minority, all women-owned event management and videographer and production company, and a artist who painted the scene live during demolition. So we have all kinds of great assets and collateral that we're going to be using going forward. We were safe, of course. We had branded face masks and T-shirts and you know, construction helmets and everything. What are those things called? Hard hats.
Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry, it's been a week. It really was just this full circle experience, and you'll see if you watch the video as well. You know, I think it was better than doing an in-person groundbreaking, because rather than just getting a couple,
I agree.
no offense, but old white dudes, like, you know, talking about what they're up to, we actually got perspectives of people who worked in RTP in the 50s and 60s, and the people who are working on the site today, and folks who will be neighbors to Hub, and folks who are going to be opening their first small business in the development. So it's really, really exciting to bring all those voices together and be able to share their stories and what this actually means to them, because I feel like it's so much more powerful than just getting a few people together and throwing some dirt in the air. So really thankful and glad with how it came together, and you know, it's just the beginning. So, and thank you so much, Vicki, for tuning in, and anybody else that was able to join. If not, I'll grab that YouTube link and throw it in the chat.
Yeah, that would be great. So this
It's
does
in
not.
the Park Post.
Oh, it's in Park Post. Okay. I have to tell you, Vicki, Park Post is like, I have to like set aside 15 minutes at least for Park Post. It's like a lot of information.
Well,
and
that's
it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, anybody send the articles in, or links or whatever.
Yeah, I got some stuff for you, Alison.
Good.
But thank you, Morgan. That is amazing. I mean, I don't know how many of you was anyone else on here go to the RTP with us last year? Mary wasn't there. Mary, we're gonna shame you now.
And I'm sad to say that Diana wasn't even there. It was really amazing, because I've never been there either before that. And to hear about it for so many years now and actually be there was amazing. And now, you know, hearing about what we heard a year ago and seeing that in the, you know, in the groundbreaking ceremony was really exciting to see. So
yeah, lots happened in a year, and yeah, it's really going to be a big transformation, and we're so excited to finally be able to talk about it. A lot of behind the scenes work and coming together. So thank you.
So what's the timeline now?
So we are, we have an office developer and a residential developer on board. We're seeking a hotel partner right now. We have a few candidates that we've narrowed down. It'll be more of a boutique hotel, so it'll be a little more customizable to experience of being in RTP. And we're also seeking some more experiential retail, especially in the wake of the pandemic. We're thinking about this is an opportunity to really customize and make sure that people feel comfortable and excited and safe and able to explore without feeling unsafe. So those are some of the things that we're thinking about. Since we do have that residential partner on board, the first 400 residential units should deliver early 2023, and office around the same timeline.
And you may have said it, and it may have been part of the groundbreaking, but was there any, like, especially given what's going on right now in the world, did you work with like any futurists, or, like, my crystal ball is not working right now, and what like, it's going to look like 6 months from now, like 3 years from now. I mean, given what's, going on now. So was there any specific consultants that were helping you shape that recently?
We actually worked with RTI. This was not in the program, but we worked with RTI, which is our sister organization and neighbor in the park. They are helping us with actually impact numbers. So we found out that our project by the end, which we're expecting about 8 to 10 years, is going to contribute 6% of the county's GDP going forward and create about 6,000 sustained jobs just within, not counting, the folks who are employed in the companies that will occupy the office building. So really exciting to see those numbers and think about that impact on the region.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, Vicky, I think that's another topic potentially for another day, actually, though. And I don't know if this is the direction you were going, but like, I know that I spend a lot of time somehow coming across or whatever, but articles about like what the workplace is going to look like in the future. And it's interesting to see all of that. And I don't know, maybe a compilation of those, if anybody has those. Just, I think it's relevant to some of our operations anyway, as to how those spaces are going to adapt and change. But anyway, it's
that's kind of where I was going. I was even thinking about like employers, like, what is, or the residential and the shopping is what actually where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that too. I mean, thinking about being safe. I mean, even conferences, I just can't even put my head really around going back together and what that might look like. Spring training, like what is spring training going to look like? So
a year ago, density was like, let's all shoot for more density and more impact in a smaller amount of space. And now it's like, density is the new 4-letter word. We don't want to talk about being together. And so that's the good thing about, I guess, new building, is that it can be built to suit however you want to spread folks out. And I will say our individual executive suites that are about 10 by 12 square feet and our startup campus are really popular right now. Folks are like, well, I want to get out of the house and I want to have my own space, and but I don't want to go to my office, or maybe they work remotely and they want that space. So they've been pretty popular. So it's really cool to see.
Is that the area in the frontier that we toured?
It is.
Okay. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you both. Thank you, everybody.
I know
that we're coming up at the end of the hour. So any specific topics that we want to have in the future? Do you want to pick on anybody that's here? So it's when I know that, so we have some webinars like the War on Talent that Brian mentioned coming up. And so we are considering those some of our peer-to-peers and communicators check-in the future. We're trying to put together a schedule to have like a webinar program like once a month. So we're going to be moving forward with that as much as we can. Our small little team too. But yeah, if there's specific topics that people are looking for to really help you all out, would really welcome some of those suggestions or volunteers to make it beneficial for you all. So if you didn't see, the conference is open. We're getting into a crunch period. Putting all that together, we have Steve Case, who was just confirmed. We have Dr. Michelle McMurray Heath, who's the president and CEO of Bio, who's going to be speaking. We have Donald Thompson coming from Centennial Campus, an entrepreneur and successful diversity movement advocate. Just to add on that, they have that diversity movement webinar series that you can be a part of, and just amazing. I know we just had one this week too. So encourage you all to look at that. But we'll be having him speak. We'll have Dr. Pollard, who's the president of Montgomery College, and the president of LIS, who is really looking at communities and growing those communities and providing opportunities there, among the many other breakouts. So we really encourage you to look at the schedule and sign up, and we'll be sending out more information on that. So, okay. Well, thank you again, Laura. I really appreciate it. Your thoughts. You're always a wealth of information. So thank you. And entertainment with your kids, and your mom.
And my mom, yeah.
Always fun.
Here